Right away on base and in the community. When something like this happens, questions are immediately raised about security, as Andy was saying. 10 on your side's Erin Kelly is also at Naval Station Norfolk tonight with more on that. And Erin, you learned a lot about what's needed to get around base.
And we learned from the commanding officer that this suspect had a transportation worker identification credential. It's called a TWIC. And when you need to get that, according to the TSA, they would have to take your fingerprints and they would go through what's called a security threat assessment. This would be a card that would be valid for 5 years. Now, I talked to a Navy source and I learned a little bit about how you would get in from the outside of the base and possibly get up to that ship. According to our Navy source, the suspect would have to show an ID at the gate at the outside of the base. In some cases, the card might be scanned. Then he'd need to go through another checkpoint at the end of the pier where someone who is armed would be there before finally making it to the walkway to the ship known as the brow. And that's where two other armed people, the officer of the deck and petty officer of the watch, would be, along with an unarmed messenger of the watch. Now, today, Naval Station Norfolk's commanding officer talked about what the shooting means for security here.
I wouldn't say that it affects the way that we necessarily screen people, but of course it's going to make us look at our procedures and make sure that we tighten up to make sure that we're doing everything that we're supposed to do in accordance with our standard operating procedures.
Now, according to Captain Clark, the TWIC ID would give him access to the pier, but not necessarily access to the ship. Now, I did check with TSA's website to see who's required to get the same kind of card as this suspect. According to the TSA, that would be Coast Guard credentialed merchant mariners, port facility employees, longshore workers, truck drivers, and others requiring unescorted access to secure areas of maritime facilities and vessels. And again, we do not know exactly why that suspect was on base. That's something we're hoping to learn as soon as we get more updates. Live in Norfolk, Erin Kelly, 10 on your side.